Here we have our eMEDIX enrollment home screen. On the left, we have your enrollments by year, and these graphs act as filters. If you click on these bar graphs, it will filter out the set of enrollments that have been started, or in this case, enrollments completed. We have our enrollment status section in the center of your screen with all the different statuses. Again, all of these numbers act as filters or hyperlinks. On the right-hand side, you'll see payers older than 30 days. If you have payers that are not completed within 30 days, those will start to show up on the right-hand side of the home screen so that those are brought to your attention. At the bottom, we have an opportunity for you to enroll for payers that have been identified within your state. And those are brought, again, to the home screen for easier enrollment. If we move on to our enrollment screen, here you'll see a historical picture of all the enrollments that you have enrolled for, as well as those statuses. Once the payer has approved your enrollment, you will see a payer approved date in this column. And one other important feature is our last touch date. This is where you can see how long it's been since any updates have been made to this enrollment. We have our next steps, which tell you what you have to do next to complete this enrollment. And then in the edit column, we have a check mark, which tells us what the steps are. And then our pencil allows you to look at the paperwork that is associated with that enrollment. To get started, you would add a provider. When we do this, we go out to the NPPES website and search to bring in those credentials, which means that is less typing for you. So with that simple name search, I found several providers with the names James Smith. I simply click on the one I want to add to my enrollment tool, select that provider, and it brings in all of the information that NPPES has about that provider. So for this provider, you can see that the Medicaid identifier is on the screen. If you have other provider numbers that you wish to add, you can do that under the issuers dropdown. And then the all-important contact information, your primary and secondary contact information. This is important to populate because all of the information that is on this screen will be used in the enrollment paperwork when it's populated. Now we know that not all payers require paperwork, and sometimes, in fact, they allow you to enroll on their portal, or it's a simple setup that the clearinghouse has to do. You'll see those all indicated in the next steps, and those will vary by payer. If I move into eMEDIX Online, we have a couple different solutions for claims. You see claims, and then we have a drop down for Claims Console as well as Claims Connection. On our home screen, we spotlight a different product each month, and that will bring your attention to any new services that we are offering. In the center of your screen, we have our performance overview. It gives you a view of your payments from the previous day, as well as the claims that were submitted and their total dollar amounts. We also have a tell us how we're doing area where you can rate us or send us feedback at any time. And then our announcements and payer alerts, where we share information related to payers or any office closings in this area. One thing that you'll notice in all of the eMEDIX websites is a drop down on the right-hand side. If you have access to several accounts, all of your accounts will be listed in this drop down, and it's as simple as clicking on that account name to switch to the next trading partner or account name. So we're going to talk a little bit about the claims drop down. We've got a claims upload menu. Of course, with the EMD's products, all of your claims will be sent to us via that API. But if you do work with a practice management system that you need to manually import claims with, that can be done on this screen. We have our reporting area. This gives us all the reports that are available for your claims to include the 999s as well as any payer-specific reports that indicate the statuses of your claims. Again, all of that information will be pushed back to the EMD's practice management systems. Under Claims Console, this is a claims tool that allows you to manage your claims. We have a search area at the top. On the left-hand side, we have the payers or claims, broken out by claim filing indicator, by the file type, and then finally at the bottom, the payer. All of the blue type with the underline act as hyperlinks anywhere in the eMEDIX website. And again, if you click on those, it's going to take you to those specific claims. I'm going to click on the rejected not worked. At the top, you see my search criteria that lets me know what I've searched for to get this set of claims. We've got our expand all details and collapse all details. If I click expand all details, it's going to expand all the details underneath each claim, and collapse just collapses that down for you. We have a new search summary. You can download your header data, which gives us all the information on the screen that you see, and then our save. So to work a claim in the Claims Console area, you would click on the worked box. That strikes through that claim to let other users know that the claim has already been worked. And when I talk about work from the Claims Console area, this would be where you would correct a claim in the practice management system and then send it back through the clearinghouse. If you wanted to see the edits or rejections on this single claim, you simply click on the arrow to the left-hand side of the workbox, and it gives you all the errors and rejections on that single claim. Next, we're going to move into Claims Connection. Claims Connection gives us a little bit different view of our claims. Same claims, just a different way to work them. I've already searched for a set of claims. Grids all work the exact same way. We've got our standard information about the claim in front of us, as well as some hyperlinks. If we click on the patient name, that is going to give us the inbound 837 view of the claim as you sent it to us. If you click on the eMEDIX trace number, this will give you a view, again, the 837, but this is the outbound claim information. So in the Claims Connection area, you can modify and update your claims. And so once you do that, again, this is the outbound, will tell you exactly how it was sent to the payer. You can click on the claim status, and that is going to take you into the claim where you can make those modifications to any of the fields. I move back to my data set. We've got our timely filing column. This gives you a timely filing letter once that claim is accepted, so that if you do get a denial for timely filing, you'll have the timely filing letter at your fingertips and be able to print that and provide it to the payer. In our contains column, the first icon we see here are responses. I'm going to scroll down a bit. I've got one here that has a remit attached to it, as well as one that has a denial attached. So for this, we're going to click on our responses. We see all the responses that are on this single claim. If you have the need to run real time, which is an eligibility or a CSI for this specific claim, you can simply click on these buttons. The eligibility or CSI will run. And then once we get that information back from the payer, it will be viewable in the view column. Scrolling down the page, we have the remit that is attached to this specific claim. If I click on the eyeglasses, it's going to give you a view of that EOB for that specific patient. And then at the bottom, we talked about denials a little bit. This is the denial information from this remit, and you're able to click on View in Revenue Resolve, which is our denial management system, and view that claim in Revenue Resolve. If I click on Rejected from this view, it will also take us into the modification area of the claim. Now, one thing eMEDIX does do is if we're able to map that tab in field where the error occurs, you can click on that error and we put a red box around the field that needs to be corrected to let you know exactly what needs to be corrected. Got all of the information broken out for the 837 for you, as well as an 837 view where you're able to view all the loops and segments of the claim, as well as attachments. If we move on to remits and remit manager, this is where all of your 835s and EOBs will live within eMEDIX. Again, different search criteria at the top. We can view checks by check date, which I have at the bottom. You can click on payer, and the view switches to break this up by payer, and then finally by a receive date. Up to you how you want to view those checks. I'm going to look by check date today. Again, we can expand all and collapse all of our menus. We can reset our search. We can clear and we can commit a search. Here you can export the grid, and then you can also search within your grid. So if I expand the details on this remit, you can see that this is a hyperlink. It's going to expand the information below it. We've got our check number. We click on that, we get the entire EOB for this check. We click on the amount. We've got the 835. If you click on the exported date, this is the date that we sent it to the PM, or it was downloaded manually. If you click on this date, it gives you another screen where you're able to reset those 835s yourself. You'd simply come into this area, click reset. You get a success message that it's been reset, and this file will be sent back to the directory for your practice management system to pick back up and post. And then finally, our columns for total claims, matched and unmatched. The matched and unmatched lets you know that we've matched a claim in our system to the remit. If I click on the claims total, it's going to break that remit down into patients. And then from here, you're able to view the patient information one by one with that EOB. Into Remit Manager and expand this date. One other thing that I did want to point out in Remit Manager is we do have the ability for you to either manually or the clearinghouse can set up a parameter, to break the check apart. So if you wanted to split a remit based on payee, you could do that here manually, and you'll see the check number with a counter indicating how many times that check was split out. To do that manually, you would click on the check number and you would click split remit. The way we do that is we split by payee, or we can also split by rendering provider. Again, you can do this manually, or we can have it set up in the clearinghouse to split these for you automatically. Moving over to our real-time inquiries, we have eligibility and claim status. Under eligibility, it's as simple as finding your payer, entering the required information, and clicking transmit. And then once we do that, we get the payer information, all of the patient information, the coverage is active, and we've got our deductibles and co-insurances. Claim status inquiry works the exact same way. And I know Patrick and Rebecca both mentioned patient responsibility estimate. This is where you would create those. So the first step in setting up patient responsibility estimate is backloading your 835s. We do this so that you're able to see what you've been paid for services from that specific insurance carrier previously. So to get started, We click on patient responsibility estimate, and we have our new pre-confirm and then search. On this page, you also see a historical data about pre-confirms that you've ran before. These are always available to you by clicking on the paper, and those will display. So to get started, we click on new pre-confirm, we select a payer, enter our member ID, and then it returns all the eligibility information broken out. We can see for Medicare, we've got our Part A benefits and our Part B benefits. So then it's up to the user to decide which benefits they're going to use for the services that they're going to be rendering. I'm just going to click on my coinsurance here because I'm going to have a 20% coinsurance for my Part B. It populates at the bottom. I click next. And then you search for, this is where we do the remit search. So I'm going to select Medicare here again. And then I can start adding my procedures. So you can enter as many procedures as you wish. And then the display at the bottom shows you what you've charged before, the allowed amounts. If there's any modifiers on those will be displayed here as well. I'm going to click on this last one to add this to my estimate, and I'll add one more line. And here you can see these are different, or the same charged amounts, but there's different allowed amounts because of these modifiers. I'll click on the last one in the row to add that to my pre-confirm. If you want to add a description for your patient, you can do that here. And click estimate. This takes us back to our home screen where we see the patient information that was entered, and then finally our document that contains the letter that you're able to present to the patient and explain to them what their portion of the services will be. Here is our pre-confirm with the total patient responsibility estimation to be $22.95. This gives you the opportunity to collect this upfront before services are rendered to the patient. We're going to move over to Revenue Resolve, our denial management system. I'm going to click on our dashboard. When I log in, I initially see that I have one denial assigned to me. We have our statuses as well as our denial types. One thing that is different about eMEDIX is we use the core, the CAQH4 business scenarios to break these apart, with the exception of a few. We have eligibility, for instance. We have broken that one out from the core business scenario set, since we know there is a different workflow to then find the correct insurance company to bill for that patient, as well as timely filing. If you're an administrative user, you can click on the admin view. This gives us a view of all of the denials in your entire system, no matter who they're assigned to. And while we're talking about who they're assigned to, I can show you in our setup area. This allows you to set rules to determine which denials go to which users. When eMEDIX pulls denials into Revenue Resolve, we pull those directly from your remits. So anytime we get an 835 that has a denial on it and you are using Revenue Resolve, that denial will be pulled into Revenue Resolve. Our due date tab lets it set up an automatic due date to be set on specific payers based on rules that you set. And then our signature setup allows us to set up standard signatures that will be applied to our appeal letters. Let me go back to my dashboard. and pick one of the denials. Open that denial up, and we've got 4 tabs across the top. Our first one is account details. We've got our claim detail, the payer detail from the remit, our revenue resolve work area, and then finally the CARCs and RARCs that tell you exactly why that claim was denied. In the revenue resolve work area, you can reassign this denial to a different user if you wish. You can set a task that needs to be done on this denial. You can set a due date as it's been done here. You can change the status. One thing about the statuses, if you select closed and save, you're going to get a closed denial details box. This allows you to enter the appeal information, whether it was granted or not, if you had to write anything off, what the amount that you wrote off was, and then we're able to report on that data. And then the priority. If you have a denial that is an urgent priority, it will display as red on the user's screen to bring attention to that denial. Save that. Once you save changes in this work area, you will see at the top that the account details have been saved successfully. I'm going to look at our appeal letters. We have several templates here. I'm going to choose my timely filing letter, as well as a signature from my signature setup screen. So with the denial letter, we've got the address where the remit came from. This information will print on the letter, on the appeal letter. So you would want to change this address to the address where the appeals need to be sent if it's not to the same location. We've got our claim details that will also print on the letter, on the appeal letter. We've got our subscriber, member ID, patient information, the data service, and that really important document control number. And then we've got the body of the letter. eMEDIX populates the letter as much as possible with the data from the denial and claim. You're just left to fill out any contact information, or if you want to change any of the verbiage within the body of this letter. And as you can see, I selected my signature up in the right-hand corner, and then it has populated that signature at the bottom. Now we can move back, we can generate the appeal, and we can save what we've done. If I click Generate Appeal, it's going to immediately pop up the letter for me to be able to print. If I click Save, we're going to get the appeal letter attached to this denial that we'll be able to view, as well as downloaded in a text format. We're going to go back, finish talking about our tabs. Our notes area is where you can put a note on this denial that any user that has access to this specific denial can see. Our documents area, you can see that we have created several appeal letters for this particular denial, and those are accessible at any time by clicking on this link. And then finally, we have our history area where you can go in and view a history of exactly what was done and who did what to this denial. Some other things under the Revenue Resolve menu is it has its own reporting area. You have several reports that can be ran off of the information in Revenue Resolve. And then we did talk about the setup. So lastly, I want to talk about the administration dropdown. We've got our payer list, which is always available to you through this menu. We've got audit logs. eMEDIX audits everything that's done within eMEDIX Online, and as an administration user, you'll have access to these audit logs. You can search by a specific user if you wanted to see what a specific user did for a date or date range. You would make your selections and run that report. Or if you're looking for a specific activity that might have been done, you can single out that activity and search for that activity. Also under our administration dropdown, we have our help menu, reporting, and then our user admin. Let's first talk about reports. We've got our run schedule area where you're able to report across several accounts if you have access to them at the same time. I'm going to choose one account to report on, and it gives me all of the NPIs within that one account. You can report on all of these NPIs or choose one or two. You then move down to the selected report you want to run. I'm going to run the top 10 rejects. And then depending on the report you select, your filter options will change. Make sure I get some information here. So I'm going to run a pretty wide search and then select the type of document you want this report to display in. View. And then at the bottom of our screen, we get our top 10 rejects based on the date information that I enter. And if you want to schedule a report, I'm going to click a format that can be scheduled. Click schedule. You can start your schedule immediately on a specific date, or you can choose reoccurrences. We've got a simple reoccurrence. And then we have our calendar where you can get really detailed about how often you want this report to run. Also under the reporting menu, you can manage your schedule. So once you set a schedule up, you can edit what you've done previously, or you can delete it altogether. And then finally, under the reports area, we have our scheduled reports that will give you all of the reports that have previously ran per your schedule. The last thing in eMEDIX Online that I want to talk about is the user admin. Here you'll see all the accounts that I have access to. If I click on just a single account, I'm going to see every user who has access to that account. You can select all. If you wanted to select all and let's say deactivate all users for this account, you would simply click deactivate. If I wanted to do a single user, I can select a single user, deactivate that user, and back in that account, you will see that that user was deactivated. To reactivate, click on it, and you activate again. You can add new users yourself. You provide a screen name, their email, their first and last name, and then provide them with a temporary password. Upon first login, they will be forced to change that password. This is also where you select the roles that this user will do, where they may have access to Claims Connection or Revenue Resolve or Remits. They can have access, limited access, where they just might be a viewer and not be able to make any changes, or they could have full admin rights as well. You can also give them access to one or any of the accounts that you have access to. And then finally, if I click on edit on a single user, you can reset their password in this same temporary password and confirm password area. And again, it would just force them to change that password upon their first login. And with that, that is the conclusion of the demo portion.